Photographs are more than memories, they're traps. Each one freezes a moment that should have been lost to time, but somehow isn't. Behind every smile, every silent stare, every blurred motion, something human still lingers. Some photos remind us of beauty, but others remind us of everything that went wrong. The fear, the cruelty, the quiet despair that no one talks about anymore. These aren't ghost pictures or legends. They're fragments of real lives. Moments captured right before or right after something unthinkable. Some show peace seconds before chaos. Others show the cost of war, madness, or obsession. And though decades may pass, the faces in these images never fade. They look back, as if asking you to remember. Tonight, we're opening a window into the past, into the moments history couldn't erase. This is the dark list. Real photographs, real stories, and the truth hiding behind them. Sometimes the darkest images aren't from battlefields or disasters, but from places meant to heal. In 1982, a photographer entered a psychiatric hospital in Deir el-Qamar, Lebanon, and what he captured inside still disturbs anyone who sees it. Children restrained and tied to a radiator, silent, frightened, and forgotten. This is where the dark list begins. The photo shows child patients, bound by the wrists and ankles tied to a radiator. Their faces are blank, their eyes hollow. You can almost feel the stillness in the air, the kind that smells of neglect and hopelessness. The journalist who took it didn't expect to find abuse, but he did. Inside that institution, the staff were overwhelmed, supplies were scarce, and patients, especially children, were restrained to keep order. The image caused international outrage when it surfaced, but many of those children were never identified, and the hospital has long since closed. Today, this single photograph stands as evidence of what happens when compassion collapses under the weight of war. In this haunting pair of photographs, a man suffering from schizophrenia sits for two portraits, one before, one after his lobotomy. In the first, his eyes are alive, restless, searching. In the second, that spark is gone. His face is calm but empty. During the 1940s and 50s, lobotomies were seen as miracles of modern psychiatry. What they really did was erase people, turning vibrant minds into quiet shells. These photos don't just document a medical procedure. They show what happens when humanity mistakes silence for healing. September 11th, 2001. Photojournalist Bill Biggert was one of the first on the scene when the towers fell. He kept taking photos, documenting the chaos, the smoke, the fear. His final shot shows the falling debris of the North Tower moments before it collapsed. Minutes later, Bill was gone. His body was found 4 days later, his camera still intact, memory card still holding the last thing he ever saw. His final images remain some of the most powerful visual records of that day. A quiet portrait, a woman's feet, tightly wrapped since childhood. The ancient Chinese custom of foot binding was meant to symbolize beauty and obedience. In reality, it was slow torture. Bones were broken and reshaped. Women endured lifelong pain, just to fit a cultural ideal. The woman in this photo sits proudly, unaware that her suffering would one day be seen as unthinkable. 1907, the coast of East Africa. A British sailor kneels beside an enslaved man, using a simple tool to cut through 3 years' worth of iron. The man's eyes are blank, his body frail. The photo captures freedom at its most fragile, one human undoing the chains of another. It's a rare moment of compassion in an era defined by cruelty. January 22nd, 1987. Pennsylvania Treasurer Bud Dwyer called a press conference to address corruption charges. What followed would become one of the most infamous moments ever captured on live television. Standing before reporters, he pleaded his innocence, then took out a revolver and ended his life on camera. The photo shows the moment right before it happened. A man broken by a system he couldn't fight. It's a disturbing reminder that sometimes the calmest face hides the deepest despair. After the war, Otto Frank, the father of Anne Frank, was the only member of his family to survive the Holocaust. In this photo, he stands alone inside the secret annex where his wife and daughters once hid from the Nazis. You can see the weight in his posture, the quiet ache of a man surrounded by ghosts. There's no need for words here. The silence says everything. Thousands of replica dog tags hang from steel wires, one for every American soldier who never made it back from Vietnam. When the wind blows, they clink together like distant echoes. Each tag represents a life, a story, a name that might have been forgotten. But here, they all whisper together. In the aftermath of the Kosovo War, a father walks across the rubble searching for his two missing sons. The photo captures the moment he realizes where they are, lying beneath what used to be their home. His expression says everything words can't. The photo became a symbol of the war's toll on civilians and the human cost of revenge and hatred. In 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team crashed in the Andes Mountains. For 72 days, the survivors fought to stay alive. When rescuers finally arrived, they found the unthinkable truth. The survivors had been forced to eat the flesh of the dead to survive. This photo shows the moment they were found, gaunt, exhausted, but alive. It's proof that survival sometimes demands the unthinkable. 6-year-old Ruby Bridges became the first black child to integrate a white elementary school in New Orleans. As she walked to class, white segregationists screamed, spat, and threw objects. One protester carried a small coffin with a black doll inside. The photo captures both cruelty and courage, a child walking through hate just to go to school. Rows of artillery shells line the ground. Thousands of them, all fired in a single day. This was the Battle of the Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in human history. Photo shows not just the power of war, but its madness. Every shell represents lives lost, not just of soldiers, but of entire generations. In 1922, factory women painted watch dials with glow-in-the-dark paint. They were told it was harmless, even encouraged to lick the brushes to make the numbers perfect. What they didn't know was that the paint contained radium, a radioactive element slowly poisoning their bodies. Their bones decayed, their jaws disintegrated, but their fight led to major changes in labor safety laws. This photo captures them before they knew, smiling, unaware of the silent death they were carrying inside. September 11, 2001. Amid the chaos in Lower Manhattan, an empty Burger King became a temporary NYPD headquarters. Officers sat at tables covered in dust and paperwork. Outside, rescue teams searched for survivors. It's a surreal image. A fast food restaurant turned command post during one of the darkest days in modern history. Near Caporetto, 1917, a group of Austro-Hungarian trench raiders pose for a photo. Their faces are painted, their eyes cold, their weapons ready. They almost look like ghosts. Moments after this photo was taken, they would vanish into the night, attacking enemy lines in brutal close combat. Few of them ever returned. The photo survives, a chilling reminder of how easily men can become monsters in war. In 1941, a British infantryman stands, rifle in hand, with a long bayonet still attached, a weapon design carried over from the First World War. The world was once again engulfed in conflict, yet the shadows of the past lingered on the battlefield. This soldier, poised and alert, embodies the tension between old and new forms of warfare. Every line on his face, every crease in his uniform, tells the story of men trained to face unimaginable horrors. The weapon he carries is more than steel. It is a reminder that the echoes of past wars often follow soldiers into the present, where survival demands vigilance, courage, and sometimes sacrifice. It is dawn on April 26, 1986. A lone photographer at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant captures what would become the first record of a disaster that changed the world forever. The calm of the early morning belies the horror about to unfold. Within hours, a reactor would fail, unleashing radiation that would seep into the land, the air, and the lives of countless people. This photograph is not just a technical record, it is a haunting snapshot of normalcy on the eve of catastrophe. A frozen moment before chaos, death, and despair would leave an indelible mark on history. A young Marine waits on the sandy shores of Da Nang, Vietnam, 1965. His uniform is crisp, his weapon at the ready, yet his expression betrays the uncertainty that grips every soldier before battle. Around him, the calm of the morning is deceptive. The landing will soon descend into chaos. Gunfire, explosions. the cries of wounded men. In this photograph, we see not just a soldier, but the weight of fear, duty, and the invisible burden of impending violence. It is a moment suspended between innocence and the harsh realities of war, a silent testament to the courage and fragility of youth. October 1963. A young John F. Kennedy Jr. stands at Camp David, waiting for his father, the President of the United States, to arrive. In his small figure, we see the innocence of childhood, completely unaware of the weight carried by the man he waits for. This moment, so simple, takes on an eerie poignancy, knowing the tragedy that will soon strike his family. It is a glimpse into a life on the edge of history, a frozen second where childhood meets the shadow of fate. The photograph captures not just a boy, but the quiet before a storm that would reshape a nation. Amid the smoldering ruins of Belgrade, a firefighter surveys the destruction of the city's tallest building after NATO airstrikes in April 1999. The skeletal structure towers above him, a jagged reminder of modern warfare's indiscriminate reach. Smoke curls through the sky, dust coats the streets, and silence falls where life once thrived. In his eyes, we glimpse exhaustion, despair, and determination. A human figure dwarfed by both the scale of devastation and the immense weight of responsibility. This photograph captures a moment of quiet in the aftermath, yet the destruction it records will echo in the memories of those who survived for decades to come. In 1991, a young boy stands before the toppled statue of Lenin in Ethiopia. Once a proud symbol of power and ideology, the bronze figure now lies broken on the ground. The child's stillness mirrors the silence of a nation watching the collapse of symbols they once revered. This photograph speaks to the fleeting nature of power, the impermanence of monuments, and the human perspective that observes history unfold. Through the eyes of this boy, we see not only the ruins of a fallen regime, but also the quiet curiosity, awe, and perhaps fear that come with witnessing the dismantling of what was once deemed invincible. Blanche Monnier, discovered in 1874, had been imprisoned in a tiny dark room for 25 years. Known as La Séquestrée de Poitiers, she was a Parisian socialite whose beauty and youth were stolen by confinement. This photograph, taken after her release, captures both her frailty and the psychological scars of unimaginable suffering. Her eyes tell the story of decades of isolation, neglect, and abuse, a living testament to cruelty hidden behind the veil of society. It is a chilling reminder that horror often exists not in a distant lands or times of war, but behind the locked doors of everyday life. This photograph shows a British veteran of the Napoleonic Wars, proudly posing with his wife. He wears his campaign medal, a symbol of battles fought and survived, of comrades lost and memories etched in flesh and mind. Behind the formal pose lies a lifetime of hardship, discipline, and sacrifice. The uniform is immaculate, the expression composed, yet we cannot ignore the weight of history pressed onto one man's shoulders. It is a quiet reminder that every medal, every honor, carries with it countless untold stories of pain, endurance, and the cost of service. In 1945, a newly liberated woman from Bergen-Belsen is treated with DDT to combat lice, a vector for deadly typhus. The photograph captures more than a moment of care. It freezes the vulnerability and trauma inflicted by one of history's darkest chapters. Her gaze is both weary and wary, the powder a small clinical intervention against the horrors she has endured. The image does not merely document history, it confronts us with it, forcing viewers to reckon with the human suffering that often hides behind statistics and reports. It is raw, unsettling, and haunting in its quiet honesty. During the USS Triton's secret mission to circumnavigate the globe underwater, a lone Filipino man on his canoe became the only civilian to spot the submarine. For 60 days, the vessel remained unseen, a ghost navigating the oceans. This photograph captures a fleeting intersection of ordinary life and secret military history, where one simple observation defied months of secrecy. The man on the canoe is unaware of the significance of what he glimpsed, yet the image immortalizes the subtle tension between human curiosity and the hidden machinery of the Cold War. Each of these images captures a moment humanity can't take back. They're more than history, they're warnings. Proof that horror doesn't always come from nightmares. Sometimes it comes from us. This is the dark list, where the truth is always darker than fiction.